Miguel Pineda was born in Olympia, Washington, with deep PNW Chicano roots. He has founded his own film company, served as a consultant, and helped organize one of the largest Hispanic cultural arts and heritage festivals in the Puget Sound. A graduate of the Evergreen State College, class of 2008, Miguel thrives on challenges and opportunities that can make a meaningful impact in his community and beyond.
Thank you, Paige. Thanks for that wonderful and warm introduction. As Paige said, my name is Miguel Pineda. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a very, very happy graduate of the Evergreen State College class of 2008. Beyond that, I actually grew up at Evergreen and am a very, very proud Gooey Duck. I went to the Child Care Center. My kids went to the Child Care Center. So just the cycle that we've been a part of this wonderful learning community since pretty much since before I was born. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to give back. Now I'm going to share my screen. Well, sweet. So I'm going to just get into this. My talk is called Transformational Leadership for a Profitable Empathetic Future. I do want to give some very important thank yous to staff and faculty that have had a big impact on my life. Teresa Liba, Larry Mosqueda, Tony Zaragoza, Walter Grodzik, rest in peace, Gabby Mitchell, Ariel Goldberger, Ted Weitzel, of course, my mom, Holly Colbert, RIP, Raquel Salinas, First People, and Mecha. So I'll just briefly just get into this, who I am. My name's Miguel, I'm 39. Some of my interests are business development, communications, leadership, anti-racism, rock and roll, being a dad, being Chicano, and I love playing music. Glossing over here, here's a little bit of the experience that I've had in the past 10 years. So kind of a little bit of a all over the place, but like I said, run a commercial film company. I've been a professional musician since I was 17. I organize one of the largest festivals in Washington State, in the Puget Sound area. I also serve as a board member on a couple organizations here in the Puget Sound and in Thurston County. And I currently am a consultant with Capital City Press. So I know I'm kind of moving along here. I don't know if it's anxious. Before I get too deep into this, I just want to make sure that everybody, if you have a question or if I'm saying something too fast, that anybody can pop in, raise your hand, do any of that jazz. I just want this to feel as interactive and that I'm speaking directly to some of the questions and ideas that people are working through in this conversation. So I guess I'll just get into both of the pieces of literature that we will be referencing. The books today that we'll be referencing are Jim Collins' Good to Great and Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. I'll briefly go over some of the basic concepts of each of these books. I'll just read this intro because I really think it's like kind of where I'd like to put it. So in the book Good to Great, Jim Collins' Good to Great explores why some organizations make the leap from being merely good to truly great, and why most fail to do so. Greatness, he argues, is built on a disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. At the heart of all of this is the concept of level 5 leadership, leaders who blend humility with fierce professional will, putting the mission above anybody, one person, and it's really about building relationships rooted in trust. So the other kind of concept that he introduced is obviously the hedgehog concept, which is I'll briefly touch on 3 life experiences and 3 endeavors that some of these themes touch on. The hedgehog concept being the intersection which you're like something you really, really care about something, and then your ability to do something and make something happen. So it's like literally like when all else fails, if a hedgehog is in danger, they curl up into a little ball and they put their spikes out and they protect themselves. So really thinking about that concept as I've kind of traveled through my working career is why I really like this book. Obviously, a couple other concepts. First who, then what. So making sure you put the right people in the right jobs before you get moving. And then, of course, the flywheel effect, the whole concept that greatness is achieved over time, not just usually one single event. So it gives a little bit of humility to the entrepreneurial journey. Couple themes from Leaders Eat Last. I love Simon Sinek. I really, really enjoy the way he centers people in what change will happen. So I'm totally a people person, but I'll read a little bit here. Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek reveals the great leadership begins with creating environments where people feel safe, valued, and connected, a concept he calls the circle of safety. Drawing insights from neuroscience and modern business, Sinek explains that leaders who prioritize their people's well being unlock trust, loyalty, and creativity that no incentive program can essentially bypass. He talks a little bit about my favorite thing that this book talks about. Talks a little bit about the biology of what builds trust and how our body rewards us when we do those things. So he touches a little bit, but he concludes leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. So that really speaks to me. And I have a few life adventures that I've been on, and some of these themes are salient points. Again, it's my job to protect my people so that they can protect the mission, and then creating conditions where others can be their best selves. This is what my Evergreen experience looked like. So I've got some track in there, student club, all that fun stuff, which is going to take us to Act One, the Brown Edition. Before I get going down here, any questions from anybody? All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Any student clubs that really stood out in your experience?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. The answer is totally yes. I obviously Mecha. Mecha, that's the Chicano Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano Chicana de Acetlan. So it's a Chicano student movement group. That as far as building an understanding of what it takes to organize, that was a great jumping off point. While I was at Evergreen too, I was also on the Spontaneity Club, so we did improv, and then we had a sketch comedy group called I think we called it the Drunk Bus. I think it was called the Drunk Bus, but we might have had to change it because it was the year that they had just brought on the late night bus to go downtown. So we're like, oh, we'll just start a sketch comedy group called that. So yeah, I love student groups because there were some really good mentors in there. Greg Porter was an excellent human being. Really helped guide me in balancing a budget and essentially running kind of like a small business, where you have to go and do all that. But yeah, yeah, good question. Any other questions?
We have another hand raised.
Let's go.
Let the person with their hand raised speak their question, and then there's a question in the chat.
Miguel, as it relates to your work, do you feel like you need to lead with culture or with business basics? I want to put a pin in that because I think we'll kind of touch on that. I definitely think you need to have some basic business acumen. Oh man, I've got a bunch, and I would love to cover that just by talking about three experiences that I've had in my career, and I hope to kind of touch on how we established trust, how when trust was dashed, how did we respond? Obviously there's three different little career paths that I have here, so I'll just get into it, and if I am not clear in answering your question, please ask it again, and we'll just keep on moving here. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. The Brown Edition. This was one of my first, I guess, forays into my entrepreneurial mindset. I'm a third generation musician on my mom's side, which means that two generations before me, they've been playing music professionally, recording professionally. We had a recording studio in our family. And so that was what we did. And in fact, back in the 70s and 80s, they would actually come and play at the Evergreen State College. They would have parties on the fourth floor of the library building. They'd have big bands and all these types of stuff. So that is something that I really wanted to continue on in my journey. And my family's legacy was to play music professionally. I started a group called the Brown Edition. I started it in 2010, and then as I progressed through, building this band, we started garnering more and more attention. I mean, Olympia didn't have, funk music for a while. After the 90s, kind of just bands, kind of live music, kind of just curtailed a little bit in downtown Olympia, and so there was really a void of like really amazing performances that were happening. So we had an 8-piece funk and soul band, looked a little bit like this, and we actually got signed in 2013. As you can see, we had a very, I would say, diverse makeup of our group, folks here locally and some folks internationally. Starting with Miguel Lopez on the left, he was from Chula Vista, conga player. Aaron's from Tumwater, saxophone player. Brian, he's from Lacey. I'm from Tumwater. Ivan's from Tumwater. Nini is from Thailand. Tarek was born in Morocco, not sure. And then Tom was born in Louisiana. He's also Evergreen alumni. The diversity of our group really allowed us to be even more out there because we had this incredible amount of team collaboration and cooperation and people with awesome lived experiences in more than one musical discipline. So it proved to be an amazing experience. Like I said, we got signed in 2013. We released an album called Soul Apocalypse. Kind of some of the lessons that I learned being a part of the Brown Edition. Well, I'll just play this little clip right here. Brown Edition is my family. It is some of the hardest working musicians I've ever worked with, and this album, Soul Apocalypse, is a true testament to that. It's fire, baby. It's fire is what it is. I was also a baby then.
Brown Edition Soul Apocalypse is a really unique album. We spent about a year and a half writing the tunes and about 9 months in production at various studios and also doing overdubs even at the house. And really it was a combination of old school techniques, new technologies, advanced, new and old. We really were trying to make something very unique in that we had both the elements of old school classic rock as well as new jazz and funk.
I would say that currently my influences are bands such as Garage Mahal, Lettuce, and Tower of Power. And from that, I'm really influenced by drummers such as Adam Deitch from Lettuce and Dave Garibaldi.
No, it ain't, no, it ain't, 'cause I can see the truth in your eyes, and I know it's a game now.
It sounded kind of cheesy up that high, but I think that's really what we're going for.
I want people to know what the Brown Edition is. You know, that we're not just a studio band or anything like that. I mean, although we have a great recording that we're very proud of, I mean, where it's at is our live shows. And I really encourage people to come see us live because we're going to be bringing it. We feed off the energy. We give that energy right back. You're going to be dancing. You're going to be sweating, having fun. And we bring it all night, and we don't stop either. So, and there's everything, a little bit of everything for everyone. So that's what I really want people to know about the Brown Edition is that you're gonna have fun.
So a little bit about the Brown Edition. That takes me back. Yeah. That was such a wonderful group. We traveled quite a bit. It was the most. We did hundreds of shows. We opened up for groups at the White River Amphitheater like Steely Dan and Elvis Costello, and I mean it was just incredible to even be in proximity to such that. But I think one of the ways that I want to summarize my experience with the Brown Edition and how it kind of relates to some of these more enduring principles is I think really what we sustained in this project was what they call in Good to Great the hedgehog opportunity. It basically that we had a simplified and clear mission about what we were trying to do, and we focused on making the group the most important thing in this entire creative process, starting with the rhythm section. We wouldn't move on from the rhythm section, and then we'd go on and we'd bring together these horn parts, and then on the top would be lyrics for whatever the feel was. And I think that we also turned this thing into a very profitable little machine, playing shows, like 3 shows for 2 years, three shows a week over the course of 2 years. I mean, that really adds up. I mean, we were very, very trained and very taught. And I think that, we had more and more economic opportunities after we released that album. And there was I kind of want to go back to this question: is how do you repair trust? We had a really during that time we had a manager who did not center the interests of the ensemble. He wanted it to be his band. That was very problematic to the overall success of the group. It was destroying trust. We were doing things to make that person happy versus what we needed to do for the music and what we needed to do for our audience. And the way that we bounced back from that situation after that kind of like ran into a dead end is I said, we need to let you go because you're not serving the interests of the music. And that's why we're all here. We're not here. We're here because we love music and we're here to serve that purpose. He unfortunately was not that great of a musician and had his focus on other things. So we kindly let him leave. And actually what that did is that amongst the group, we decided that we wanted to forge a new path. And the only way that we were going to do that is by not repeating some of the things that we had in that relationship, that we would take more personal responsibility and ownership for our success of our group. It's like, it wasn't just running a band. It was running something that had purpose. And I think that that's what really sustained the group for, we had the group for 6-7 years and traveled all over. And so I don't know if anybody's been in a van with with bandmates or traveling on a family vacation. Sometimes, people kind of do this, but that was an excellent lesson for me, and really echoes. I like this. Leadership is music, is music's mirror. Sorry, leadership in music, mirror leadership in business. Serve your team, and the harmony follows.
Couple questions in the chat.
Okay.
I'll actually ask the last one because it's directly related to this last story.
Yeah.
When did you catch on to the manager's vision versus the group's vision and needs?
I think that we stopped having one-on-one conversations and we had conversations as a group. So instead of having fractured and segmented conversations about what success would look like, we got together, decided what that was going to look like. And then we said, this is our vision for moving forward. Can you fulfill this? Or are you going to be up in your feelings and be unmanageable yourself? Obviously, we parted ways. It was it's tough because you spend a lot of time with people and you're displaying your craft and sharing it with everybody. You just kind of have to get over that like, oh, they did me dirty. No, they were just looking for a way out. So you can bless and release them. You don't got to carry that with you. Is that a principle you embrace now with PM? Well, I'm assuming you're talking about Porcupine Media. Is that correct? I'm not affiliated with Porcupine Media anymore. I left that partnership in May of 2023. I'm not exactly sure if they're still around or what they do, but it's definitely not the same company.
There's another question that came a little earlier, if you don't mind me asking.
Go ahead.
From your perspective, can you explain how individuals' attachment patterns impact their professional relationships, leadership, and overall performance? I like that you said your people so they can protect the mission. That's real leadership and easy to lose sight of in the beginning.
Can I explain how individuals' attachment patterns impact their professional relationships, leadership, and overall performance? I'm assuming you might be talking because so many of those elements are in this experience. First of all, let me here's a little bit about what Porcupine Media did when it was under my guidance. So we had our commercial film photography. We actually did consulting, which was really, really fun. One of the examples is we helped Marybridge Children's Hospital, Marybridge Brigade, with a social media and video package that helped them raise over $100,000 for the new hospital wing. That was a very clear example of how awesome that, like, I love that type of work. It's like, give me your problem, give me the resources, and then we'll come up with something. So that's something that I truly, truly love, even to this day. here at Capital City Press. But for instance, we do programs like this, like a Austin City Limits style thing called the NyQuil sessions.
Presented by Porcupine Media.
Yeah! Thank you so much. We're back for another episode of the NyQuil Sessions, brought to you by our season sponsor, the Equity Whisperer. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah Lloyd. Let's make some noise for them. Come on, y'all. Make some noise.
So little programs like that. So we really had our hands in commercial film work, stuff for television. We did some projects with the History Channel, Discovery Channel, and got to travel quite a bit, especially to SEMA.
I'm Ashley Chandler with the Thurston County Chamber of Commerce, inviting you to our business after hours, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. here at Porcupine Media. And to tell us more is the Director of Operations, Miguel Pineda.
Hi everybody, I'm Miguel Pineda, the Director of Operations at Porcupine Media. We want to invite you to our business after hours, April 21st at 5:30 p.m. There'll be networking, there'll be food, refreshments. We can't wait to share the evening with you, and you'll want to stick around for the NyQuil session immediately following the business after hours. We can't wait to see you there.
A little bit on the backstory of Porcupine Media, a commercial film company. It actually started as another company called Media Marketing Solutions, and then we had to change the name to Cabin Light Studios, and then finally settled on Porcupine Media because we made content that sticks. And within that, one of the first objectives coming into an unrighted ship, I guess I will say that, it's basically like a ship on its side. That was essentially what I walked into this partnership, starting with Media Marketing Solutions. The previous number one for Media Marketing Solutions had gotten into some legal trouble for harassing one of the former employees, and got into some sticky business when that person complained and then tried to fire him. So basically, I was walking into a burning barn, and everyone told me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But I don't know why I like to fix stuff that is on fire. And that's exactly what I did. Came into this new company and started immediately assessing who's here, who's on the team, who's on the bus. Again, leading with that first who, then what kind of mentality. And one of the things that I found out most was people had become so fearful of making their own decisions. The trust was so low that people were paralyzed in their ability to make assertive decisions, independent decisions. And when we don't have those in any business, it just brings down efficiency and is not conducive, and is definitely not profitable. So I really had to investigate a little bit more about the culture of the organization. Trust was the first thing that we knew that we had to address. The other thing that we had to address is folks being able to have the autonomy to make decisions on their own. We started seeing projects come out sooner. We started seeing people make decisions on their own where they would have waited till Monday to get something answered. They're just taking the personal initiative. And in turn, we ended up getting paid a lot quicker. So we started turning these systems. Unfortunately, there were some people within the organization that were holding on to very toxic ideas of what progress looks like, or that progress wasn't necessary. Unfortunately, I had to let a couple of the people go. One of the guys that I had to let go, he was bringing people into our film studio at all hours of the night, and they were drinking in the film studio, and tried to argue with me. And then I had to show him the Zoom video, or the Ring camera video of all of his buddies. And so I think in that case, just speaking about individuals' attachment patterns and their impact on our professional relationships and my ability to lead, I think their attachment to the work was very, very apparent. They didn't have one. They didn't have connection to the environment that we were trying to create, and they wanted to go back to the old ways. and I would encourage everybody to see the warning signs of people like that in every single organization. They're the ones that show up with a certain level of negativity and unwillingness to work, and they don't trust anybody. What that ultimately does is that changes the environment in which others can be successful. I had to also address the fact that there was no trust. There was no trust because this individual that I had to let go was also stealing from the company. It was definitely one of the hardest conversations because I was willing to let him come back and be a part of our organization if he was willing to admit he did wrong, pay back what he took, just apologize to the team. And there was an unwillingness to do that. That showed me that there was a pattern of behavior that was going to be problematic to everyone's success. Once we cut those people loose, we actually had more folks stepping up to the plate to say, I want more responsibility. I want to be able to protect this thing that we're building. I want to be able to come in and do shoots on the weekend. I said, absolutely, yes. Just lock up when you're done. People were starting to take initiative once we had established that we had the right team in place. Jim Collins like to says, great companies, this is my favorite, just like Collins, great companies create a culture of disciplined people capable of disciplined thought and disciplined action. The foundation for any creative or business success. Folks willing to adapt and innovate and deliver on this exceptional opportunity. I mean, we set ourselves apart from many, many of local media companies just by having great people on our staff. And not only that, our staff were bilingual, multilingual. Spanish was almost more spoken in our group, but even being a BIPOC like film crew is also it's not common for the industry that we're in. I think to get at Tara's question, LulaFest. So if y'all don't know, LulaFest is a festival that I organized during Hispanic Heritage Month. We are in our third year. We just completed our third year of LulaFest. LulaFest is short for Libe Lula. Libe Lula is a dragonfly in Spanish, and the dragonfly is actually our state insect. I was there in 1996 in the House Gallery when they made that law, and I said, full circle, this is great. We got ourselves a festival. It originally started in right in front of the old Porcupine building, there in between State and 4th on Washington Street. Shut down the street, had mariachi, had jazz groups, had community organizations, and it popped off. It was great. Next year we were at Isthmus, and this final year we settled on the intersection right in the heart of downtown Olympia. We had a full car show, beer garden. We had an inside stage, which was the Olympia Film Society, and then an outdoor stage, which was just DJs. We had about 1,200 people attend this year. This is the biggest year that we've had for LulaFest. Kind of one of the themes that I like talking about the most when talking about LulaFest is, I started this thing on like a $50 bet with my dad, who still owes me $50 for this. But I was just so certain that I could provide an event of this caliber. Sure enough, we threw the event in the city. We threw like a little barbecue outside of our office, and I had a dancing horse in the middle of the street, and we had a full mariachi. And the city approached me and said, "Hey, why don't we do like a festival?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do a festival." So sure enough, one of my cohorts through this whole entire thing, Olivia Salazar de Bro, she's the equity officer for the city of Olympia, and is an amazing human. And I've known them since I was a little kid, and their dad actually had a show called Lluvia de Estrellas on public access. I used to watch it, and it was amazing. But when I think about LulaFest as a whole, I think about the flywheel effect. The flywheel effect is essentially what Collins is talking about as that greatness doesn't happen immediately. It happens over time. So how are you building your systems? How are you remembering what you've done to get to this point? Where have you had to be more discerning? Where have you had to humble yourself? Where have you had to ask for help? And really, it's a notion that we started from the bottom. Now we're here, right? So we leveled up, but it was by inclusion of the community. It was like, well, if anybody's heard the story of Stone Soup, everybody brings a little bit from what you have, and I'll bring a little bit of what I have, and they're going to bring a little bit, and all of a sudden we have a full buffet. We have something that everybody can pull from, and the well is deep. Living that life of abundance. And the way that we were able to show up and show out for this event in Olympia has been amazing. Nothing short of amazing. I mean, there was a wedding this year at the festival that led out into our event. This is the first year that we've had indigenous dancers, like Mexica dancers, and they actually led like a copal ceremony where they invited. There's a picture on here that you can see. They invited the entire community, anybody in the community, to come basically be a part of this ceremony, which is really, there's a picture of like myself, the mayor, city council, my mom, one of the two other organizers. And I think that's really what this event stands for, is really bringing the community together from the very top to just regular, families coming in and enjoying a great event. And on top of being able to hold space for our culture, our family's culture, that's really awesome to have been able to organize this. And again, this was our biggest year. And why I like to Lula Fest, it really started as like, okay, we have this little block in downtown. How are we gonna support and promote the businesses in downtown Olympia? Well, we're just gonna go start knocking on doors and handing out flyers and having conversations. And we got so much buy-in from the business community, it's not even a question anymore. It's like our businesses do better when we bring events to downtown Olympia, especially cultural events that are heavily attended. That has a huge impact on the downtown business core. And we work alongside the Olympia Downtown Alliance just because of the work that they do in advocacy and establishing the creative district as well. I was on a little work group for that. I guess the final little thing I wanted to just kind of chit chat about. Oh, when is it next? Oh, it is. So it's always the last Saturday in September during Hispanic Heritage Month.
There's
So, yeah.
also a question in the chat. What are the economic limits on the festival? How much do you hope to earn from it?
There isn't necessarily an economic limit on the festival because we're still in the growth phase. We've had the most amount of sponsors this year than we've ever had. So every year is a building year, in my opinion, because we're taking everything that we learned from the year previous, applying it to have a smoother run. This year, I will say, we did have to invest some additional money just to keep the space that we were occupying safe. There was great concern about ICE raids. There was great concerns about mostly somebody being snatched up by a bunch of strangers. Like, that's just the time we're in. These Gestapo antics, are alive and well in our communities, and they're terrorizing folks of color. So we had to take very, very deliberate action to have plans in place if something went down. So this was the most serious conversation that we've ever had in organizing this festival, to keep people safe. How much do I hope to earn from it? For me, I'm not in it for the money. I'm simply holding space so that my children can have something to organize and look forward to. My oldest is in college, just started at Western, and I have two twins. I want them to know, like, I don't, to be honest, I don't really want to serve on boards, but that's my growth edge. I want to understand what it is these things do, these spaces do, that have traditionally kept us out, and teach my kids, and then learn myself, and then be more proactive in those spaces. Let's see here. How can those tactics be extrapolated to other communities? I'll actually, this Lula Fest is a tactic that has been extrapolated from another community. That other community is Spokane. They actually threw an event called, and they do every year, except this past year they canceled it because of concerns about ICE. It's called Tacos y Tequila. and it is in Spokane. And I went to that, and I was so inspired. I literally, essentially, copied as much as I could from their framework, and they were so gracious. The Hispanic Business Professionals Association of Spokane, they're amazing people, and most of them are all volunteers, and they raise money for scholarships as well. So I'm like, that to me would be over the top. Let's fund education. Let's turn this into a thing that we can give back to the Celtic Center here. Like let's think about this from a bigger perspective of what the impact is. Let's change our environment, which is the hope, because we didn't see any of our cultural events, other than when I was kids. My parents were organizing events like Cinco de Mayo and all that stuff, and that's a whole nother topic. But everything's being repeated. Everything's going on here is borrowed from somebody else, and if I need to give credit to everyone, it's them, because they're amazing. And if you have a chance, I'll tell you, go. It's like city blocks, and it is, if you like tacos and you like tequila, then it's probably your spot. This is how cultural festivals impact economies. They do. Like that event did not happen, and there was a significant significant amount of money that was not generated due to, like, if you just compare not having the festival and then having the festival, like the revenue generated is much greater. So there's an economic impact when we don't have these cultural events. They are economic drivers. So something to think about. Enough time for Q&A. I can talk a little bit about Capital City Press if y'all want me to, but I really want to speak directly to the questions in the room. I mean, what doesn't make sense? Like, anybody want me to go back over something? Anybody want, I'm here to serve you all. Well, I currently am a consultant for Capital City Press. So we are a commercial printing company. All these items behind me are actually items that we've made. These are actually huge, large format pieces for Sound Credit Union, actually. So they're one of our clients, but we make, like little stanchions for teller stands. We make packaging. We do large format type printing. We do offset printing, digital, and mailing. And we just are wrapping on our political season, which has got our presses running almost 24 hours a day. It's a big year, a big month, I should say. It's technically an off year, but it was not off year numbers. It was insane. So everybody make sure you vote. But yeah, so I work for Capital City Press. You're currently leading Capital City Press. So just to clarify, I am not leading Capital City Press. I'm a consultant here. Our wonderful leader is Mike McKnight. He's been here for, I believe, over 13 years. We are the largest union press shop west of the Rockies. I have been so gracious enough that when I came and applied to this company, I had already known about this. I mean, this place started in 1969, essentially been around for 57 years, 58 years. And so they had a really well-established name. And with being on some of the boards and some of the stuff that I've done, they had already brought me on. They brought me on as a project manager. That's still very green about printing and wide format and all the details. But because I had strong business acumen, had a strong understanding of how to grow business, this was an asset that worked in my favor. So just all these other, I'll call them acts, really got me to where I'm at right now. And incorporating all of these skills and has been my absolute joy, because this is an older company. There's, on average, people are here for 10 to 15 years, so people don't go away because we are an ESOP, and an ESOP is actually just an employee stock ownership program. So after 3 years, you get vested in the company. And I just got my first ESOP statement for working here for a year, and it was like a free $4,000, just growing, and they'll put it again in our. Yep, there you go. Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you for putting that ESOP explanation there. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'd love to report in another year or so, but what's great about this place is we brought on quite a bit of new talent. Since I've got here, we brought on some new lines of business, which has been awesome. We're doing the custom vehicle wraps. which is pretty exciting. We're wrapping big vehicles, big semis, doing bigger, larger signage. And so really trying to push our wide format department, which that market is set to grow somewhere between 14 and 17% versus our offset printing, which is on average 2 to 3% a year. Yeah, I'm totally in love with this place. If you want to give us a follow on Instagram, feel free. I think I have our Instagram here. Yeah, so you can check out some of the cool projects. We just did Altitude 15 in downtown Olympia, and you can see a bunch of examples of our work. We just got a brand new press, $2 million press, and it is so amazing. And you can just see some of our other wide format work there that we do. I guess this is kind of like as I was kind of going over my notes and my thoughts over the weekend. I spent some time with my family. The question that I get thrown at me occasionally is, who cares? Why does any of this matter? And I think one, I care because I really care about people. I believe that when people are taken care of, they are their best self. And based in some of the work that Simon Sinek talks about, people's biology changes to the point where they actually end up giving more. You know, their serotonin is the levels get high, and cortisol production goes down. That's cortisol is what floods our body when we're under stress. You know, we're worried about profits more than people. And I'm here to argue that people are profitable. Taking care of people is profitable. Serving people's needs, serving workers' needs, that's profitable. So really trying to turn the whole notion that, you know, like I guess the answer to the thing is I care, and I will continue to be a driver. And I work with a lot of people that care as well, and we care about our clients. And we have a saying here at Capital City Press: we either succeed or we fail together. And so, why I love working here so much is because so many of these elements are taken into account to make a great working environment. So I love it here. I travel a lot, and I have the ability to work with just tons of different people from different backgrounds and different needs. So
we have a question in the chat. Do you mentor?
Oh, sure. I mean, I I guess I don't know what that means, because I just also just in the traditional sense I know what a mentor is, but I guess you would have to be more specific, Tara, if there's something that you. I'm here to help. I want to help. I want to understand people's problems and challenges so that I can become smarter and we can become smarter. I'm a fail forward kind of person. I definitely think that everyone is capable of growth if they want it, and I'd be happy to discuss anything with any of you all. Since you grew up in Olympia and have deep roots in the community, how has that shaped your approach to empathy-driven leadership and the way you feel a business should be run? Oh my gosh. Yeah, so for all intents and purposes, I'm a local kid. I'm a local dude. Let's say that's what it says in the title. I grew up in Tumwater. My parents were super involved in the Hispanic Roundtable and different organizations, so that we knew that we would have that same opportunity. And so, it definitely has helped shape the way that I want to see it grow. I definitely remember the things that aren't here that used to be here, but also I want to lead with a lens that centers Indigenous voices. I want to lead with a voice that centers on, BIPOC folks, women of color. Like when we start addressing problems with that lens, then things start actually getting solved. So I would encourage you guys, everyone here, to embrace what that looks like, because being in community with Indigenous communities is the only way you're going to see past all this bullshit. And I hate to be so frank on the matter, but we're using ways that weren't designed for this continent, and it's up to us to re-engage the Indigenous intellectualism that exists in the communities. Go learn more language. Go and learn Indigenous language. Go learn about your families. That's what's going to make you a better business person. That's what's going to inform how you show up for those marginalized communities, is knowing what you show up with.